So let's move on. We're gonna get to some fighting. Let's talk about some fighting.
Let's do it.
Let's talk about some fighting. So yesterday it was, I believe it was yesterday. Yesterday morning, actually. The now former UFC men's bantamweight champion TJ Dillashaw relinquished his title. Basically, it was more of a move of semantics, because he relinquished his title because he was pretty much going to be stripped, because, well, he may not have, he probably was going to get stripped because he tested positive, or there was an adverse finding, to properly quote what was said, an adverse finding in his drug test from his most recent fight, which was against Henry Cejudo. Now, the thing of it was the fight against Cejudo took place on the flyweight level, and he's a bantamweight, so he was coming down trying to win a second championship in a second division. So I still think that would have resulted in him being stripped of his bantamweight title, even though that fight was for the flyweight belt. But we don't have a lot of details about what happened with his failed test, in terms of what the current vice president, former UFC women's bantamweight champion Miesha Tate weighed in today. She says that she believes it's going to be a situation that is very similar to what's going on right now with John Jones, with the picogram situation, where it's going to be like a really minute amount that is going to be proven to say that, okay, this really didn't affect him. It didn't enhance much. Clearly, it didn't do too much for him. He got knocked out in the fight that he tested positive for. But a lot of the questions,
isn't that different though? Because John still got suspended. Like the issue with John wasn't we found him using stuff and we let it slide because it was such a small amount. The issue with John was we already punished him for using stuff, and because our testing is so much more advanced, we can still see it in his system. Scientifically, all of the science reports are that this is like everybody, neutral organizations. I know people want conspiracy theories, but these are completely neutral organizations that are saying, that have displayed the science if you care to read it. This is basically like literally if you painted something on the wall and then painted over it, and you could see the stain of the old paint. That's what it is. It's clearly the stain because there's, paint on top of it. And this is the same kind of thing. It's a remnant. It's not a thing. There's no way. It's not just a small amount. It's the type of amount. Right? Like when people say picogram, they think, oh, well, suppose he only took a picogram. First of all, that's ridiculous. That's not mathematically possible. But even more so, what it is old in its nature. For him, even if it's old, he still would get suspended for it because he was never originally suspended for finding it. The old remnant would be evidence that he did something.
Well, it maybe not, because it depends on where, it depends on what the substance is. It depends on what the substance is. And what they could do is they could say, well, we would have never ruled to suspend John Jones to begin with had we had this information that came out after the investigation from his original positive test. So TJ's representation could basically say, why make me go through a suspension when John already, and I'm saying this is assuming that this is a comparable situation, because that may not prove to be the case because we don't know yet. But assuming that it is, his representation could say, well, why put me through what John went through when we're just going to come to the same conclusion that was arrived at when you did John Jones's investigation. So I don't know exactly how that's going to shake out, but I think the bigger issue here is, first and foremost, there's something that has to be done about this entire dynamic, right? I don't know what that is, if it's about being more lenient or if it's about being stricter. I don't know what that is, but to a degree, the UFC is one of the most frustrating sports to follow, and it's one of the most their athletes are some of the most disheartening to follow, because you're so nervous after every win, after every event, because
before every weigh-in.
Right, because you're watching news to see if what this thing you just spent the entire weekend cheering is going to suddenly be wiped out by some sort of negative test. And then if you know better about how this actually works and you realize that every dirty test is not created equal, then it becomes frustrating because you're talking to people who seem to believe that every positive test means that the person went into a factory and shot themselves up with super soldier serum. Correct. You know what I mean? So then that becomes frustrating as well, because now that's a weird dialogue. So something has to be done to remedy this entire dynamic, because it's not good for the sport. I know that the UFC has walked around with bulletproof draws on for decades now, in terms of, yes, we don't hide from our negativity. We accentuate it in many ways. We're not scared to talk about it. But at some point, man, people still like sport. And if you're losing the sporting aspect of it because of this and some other stuff, then I think that that's a negative thing.
This is where I think they benefit somewhat from having so many events. Mm-hmm. There's an NBA element to the UFC where in football, when a guy does something wrong and misses 8 games, that's half the season.
Yeah.
You do that in the NBA, you forgot it even happened. Right? Like we're talking about the MVP conversation with James Harden, forgetting that he stunk it up for the first 15, 20 games, however long it was, when he was like bad and out of shape and stuff, because the season is 82 games and you have time to make up for it. In the UFC, they have so many athletes that, you know, when we see John Jones again, when we see Adesanya fight, you know, Kamaru Usman being a class act in the face of his championship, and you know, the next time we see Woodley, we're gonna forget about all these
things. It's funny you said that. I got actually a take on that.
Oh, go ahead. What you got?
You know, you were saying that Kamaru Usman being a class act. Like, I think like that was the case for the most part, but it was something that went on with Kamaru Usman after the Woodley fight that I myself and a couple people online kind of noticed, and they made comments about it.
What's this?
Like, my man was like, and I don't know, call me old school, I don't know, but my man was cussing up a storm literally during his post-fight interview, holding his toddler-sized age daughter on his arm at the same time. And I understand, I know people do things differently. They go wild, they go buck, and they go, oh, and I know I had one person on Twitter said, she gonna hear it someplace anyway. He's literally, you just won a championship, you holding your daughter. I'm talking about she had to be 3, right? And I got another MF thing, and after I got snot and tissue, dirty panties. I mean, he just saying it all, Jack. And I'm like, you ever watch somebody do something and they kind of make you uncomfortable for them? And I'm like, dude, you got I mean, okay, I get it, but the baby, bro. I'm like, you guys gonna do that?
I don't know. I'm kind of, first of all, I try not to tell nobody how to raise their kids unless they're doing something destructive. And I'm also on the side of,
has different definitions, but
when it comes to cursing is just words. And I think it's more important to teach your kids, like, it's appropriate to use cursing in these situations, and it's inappropriate to use them in those situations, rather than you just ain't gonna hear the word because it's a word, it ain't doing nothing to you.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's only bad because we say it's bad.
Yeah, I don't know. People say words ain't doing nothing to you, but then there's a such thing called verbal abuse, and then they say the words are doing something to you.
It's abuse.
So, no, but I'm saying that, I mean, it depends.
Good. Well, man. I think that's one of the differences I would say is if I'm cursing and I'm just using an expletive in a phrase, right? So if instead of going to the movies, we gonna see that effing movie, that's not hurting nobody. But if I say, you know, to a person, instead of you're John, but you're John the MFer, now that's a different context, right? So, you know, how you use in the words is more important than what the words are. And I guess that's what it is for me. But I feel you as a parent, you know, you feeling like that. That's totally fair.
Yeah,
I would say overall,
I think that's definitely a difference. It's definitely a difference when it comes to, as a parent, you start to look at things a little bit differently. You know,
but I think the Dillashaw thing looks bad. I did a quick question. Cody Garbrandt has just been throwing shade and salt left and right.
He said, 2 years ago that Dillashaw was using PEDs.
Super dirty.
And he said that he showed him how to use it, offered to show him how to use it. So he said, so, you know, this doesn't shock him at all. And a lot of people say, well, how are you using PEDs if you're not bulking up? But that just shows another level of the ignorance about PEDs in sports, because not all PEDs are designed to bulk you up. You know, these are advanced, you know, little pieces of medicine that people are conjuring up, and they're designer drugs. Okay, they're being designed for specific results, for certain people looking for specific types of things. And if you're not looking to bulk up, there's something for that too.
And the thing is, and this is why we say the steroid discussion is complicated. There are certain things that are okay for me and you to take over the counter that are not okay for these athletes to take.
Right.
It's that simple, right? So there's stuff I could get from GNC that's a banned substance. So everything is, again, not deer antlers being rubbed on, you know, your inside breast pocket so that you punch harder. That's not what everything is. So like we said, until we get more information, we don't know exactly what it is. But I think it looks bad.
Yeah,
it looks bad for Dillashaw. And this is probably is what it is by going by what it is so far.
Yeah, it definitely, I like I said, and even no matter what ends up happening with him, it just looks bad I think it looks bad for the promotion overall. And I know that they're probably at a place where they feel like nothing makes them really look bad, because they're the UFC and they can do what they want, and you guys are going to come back anyway. It's just like, as somebody was mentioning in the chat, you know, the ESPN deal, the new ESPN pay-per-view exclusive thing. So now all pay-per-views are going to be handled exclusively through ESPN Plus. So it's almost like people are looking at this as that they're being forced to subscribe to ESPN Plus. So if you're a new ESPN subscriber, you'll get 1 year of ESPN Plus and a UFC pay-per-view event for $80. So if you subscribe for the entire year, you pay $80. And then that entitles you to one pay-per-view for free. Then if you're an existing ESPN Plus subscriber, you'll be able to purchase the UFC pay-per-view events for $59.99, which is essentially just about what they cost anyway, if you're just buying them outright. But now they're making you buy into the $4.99 a month or $49.99 a year. So it's it's a little tough, man. Yeah, I mean,
I think that's a tough deal.
It's a tough deal. But see, this to me speaks to their position that you love us. And because we think you and know you love us, we can put any price on our product and you're gonna do it. You're gonna come.
Well, until they can't.
Until they can't. But the thing of it is they probably won't be. And I don't hate on that. I really don't hate on that, because to me it's no different than selling VC, you know, and putting, you know, and selling VC and saying that it costs 30,000 VC for you to get a haircut. If nobody buys the haircut, they'll change.
Then that's what's happened with 2K.
And that's the thing.
They put some crazy prices out there, and they've been hate on it, and they've made some adjustments, and they'll probably keep making adjustments.
Right, they'll keep making adjustments. But see, that's the thing. Until as the consumers are going to dictate what's going on, you know,
the consumers and the competition, and that's where stuff like One Championship starts to become more important now. Because if they can put on competitive events, so and like that's the one thing about 2K, that people only look at NBA Live. Every other video game is also competition, particularly when you're talking about microtransactions and time spent playing. So when Apex Legends comes out and is a stellar 5-star online shooter for free, that impacts 2K. And because they have to buy your time back, and they can't buy your time if they selling, you know, $250,000 megaphones, 1,000 VC megaphones.
Absolutely. I mean, I've actually talked to people at 2K who have told me NBA Live is not even really, you know, our competition at this point. Our competition is the Call of Duties and the Destinies and the Apex Legends and the Fortnites and all that. Because those are the games that, like you said, are occupying people's time. You know, only people that spend a lot of time playing NBA Live are people who have attached some ridiculous sense of loyalty to that series that doesn't have anything to do with the fact that it's like they look at it like being a fan of a team, right? So it's like, yeah, my team sucks right now, we in the lottery, but I'm going to keep watching because it's my team. And that's the way they're holding on to the live thing. It's like, I'm gonna keep buying it, I'm gonna keep playing it every year because that's the game I grew up on. Well, I want it to be good.
To be totally fair to live, I know a lot of people who play live, they just play it a lot less than 2K. And because live goes on sale and you can pick it up, and what happens is, and this is to credit to live, they have a game that you can do fun things in. Now, I think the NBA aspect of it is a far, far inferior product to 2K. Like the offenses, the player behaviors, the signature, all that stuff, no good in comparison. But there's a refreshing element to live when you are frustrated with 2K. And live needs to turn that into more. So when you go online and you play against the computer with your friends and like their summer pro circuit type stuff, it's like, oh, I could see how this could be fun. And you can see the light at the end of the tunnel for NBA Live. And there's a lot of people who play it in that kind of interest of like, you know what, this isn't great right now, but I could see how it could be much better. And that's interesting. And for $4 to $9, which Live come down to the past couple of years, that's good enough. I think that also makes up a lot of the people playing Live.
Yeah, all 14 of them.
I'm trying to be nice. I'm trying to be nice.